Welcome to Around the Weird. Here's your host, the museum curator of the strange and unusual, Mr. Nothing.
Thank you, mysterious voice, and welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual and out of the ordinary literature that I found in my travels. Today, it is Poetry Thursday, a fun day to talk about the poetry that exists in the world, sometimes weird, sometimes normal, but always poetry that has intrigued me or is something that I would like to share with the world. And today is no different, especially because it's a very unusual one. It is a poem about dinosaurs and black neighborhoods. I am referring to Dinosaurs in the Hood by Danez Smith. For those who don't know, Danez Smith is a black queer author who is mainly known for writing slam poetry, but they also have written some other books of poetry, their collected works, and gotten their poetry submitted to various publications. And they've also won a couple of awards for their work, including the National Endowment for the Arts, which I'm beginning to suspect is not as high and grand as I've been led to believe, because a lot of authors that I've covered on here, a lot of writers that I've covered on here have won similar awards. And not to, diminish Danez Smith's work, but if everyone's getting it, maybe it's not as hard to get as I thought, or maybe I'm just only reading authors who are well published. I don't know. I guess that's up for all of you to decide. But yeah, that's pretty much all I know about Danez Smith. They're somewhat connected to the Poetry Foundation, which I found, which is where I get a lot of my poetry from when I'm not looking for specific books or anything like that. And so I thought that was an interesting connection there. Another interesting thing is that Danez Smith is HIV positive. I normally wouldn't say that, but it feels like somewhat relevant to their writing because it does show up in some of their work, in their other poems, which are a little bit sad, but also very embracing of their identity. So kind of a mixed bag there. And as well as writing about that, Danez Smith also writes about the black community and their black identity, which is pretty cool. And you see that especially in the book the poem that I'm going to be talking about today. So without further ado, let's talk about Dinosaurs in the Hood. I will read it, do a little bit of an analysis, and we will move on from there. Dinosaurs in the Hood. Let's make a movie called Dinosaurs in the Hood. Jurassic Park meets Friday meets The Pursuit of Happiness. There should be a scene where a little black boy is playing with a toy dinosaur on the bus, then looks out the window and sees the T-Rex because there has to be a T-Rex. Don't let Tarantino direct this. In his version, the boy plays with a gun, the metaphor. Black boys toy with their own lives. The foreshadow to his end, the spitting image of his father. Fuck that. The kid has a plastic brontosaurus or triceratops, and this is his proof of magic or God or Santa. I want a scene where a cop car gets pooped on by a pterodactyl, a scene where the corner store turns into a battleground. Don't let the Wayans brothers in this movie. I don't want any racist shit about Asian people or overused Latino stereotypes. This movie is about a neighborhood of royal folks, children of slaves and immigrants and addicts and exiles, saving their town from real-ass dinosaurs. I don't want some cheesy yet progressive hmong sexy hot dude hero with a funny yet strong commanding black girl buddy cop film. This is not a vehicle for Will Smith and Sofia Vergara. I want grandmas on the front porch taking out raptors with guns they hid in walls and under mattresses. I want those little spitty screamy dinosaurs. I want Cicely Tyson to make a speech, maybe two. I want Viola Davis to save the city in the last scene with a black fist afro pick through the last dinosaur's long, cold blood neck. But this can't be a black movie. This can't be a black movie. This movie can't be dismissed because of its cast or its audience. This movie can't be a metaphor for black people and extinction. This movie can't be about race. This movie can't be about black pain or cause black people pain. This movie can't be about a long history of having a long history with hurt. This movie can't be about race. Nobody can say nigga in this movie who can't say it to my face in public. No chicken jokes in this movie, no bullets in the heroes, and no one kills the black boy, and no one kills the black boy, and no one kills the black boy. Besides, the only reason I want to make this is for that first scene anyway. The little black boy on the bus with the toy dinosaur, his eyes wide and endless, his dreams possible, pulsing, and right there. And so that was Dinosaurs in the Hood by Danez Smith. In terms of analysis, there is a little bit to talk about here. From first look, upon first reading it, you can see it's pretty obvious what Danez Smith has made this poem about. He's talking about a desire for a movie about dinosaurs in a black neighborhood, dinosaurs in the hood, where he's talking about his list of things that he wants to see and things that he doesn't necessarily want to see. And you can see a pattern emerging with things that he wants and doesn't want. In terms of things he doesn't want, he says, like, don't let Tarantino direct this. In his version, the boy plays with a gun, the metaphor, black boys toy with their own lives, the foreshadow to his end, the spitting image of his father. And he's like, no, thank you, I don't want that. And indeed, a lot of people like Tarantino, especially Quentin Tarantino movies, but I find his work to be very disadvantageous towards the black community. Like, he's playing towards stereotypes, and he's leaning heavily into violence and often leaning heavily on black pain, even though he is very much a white movie director, who, he's one of those, like, oh, I can't be racist, I have black friends sort of people. And I feel like he's a cultural tourist at times, maybe not appropriation, just like wandering into black culture, taking things and saying, oh, let's make a movie about that, and not really understanding, the history there, or pretending maybe that you understand the history. But that's neither here nor there about this poem. That's just, it's getting at the idea of, like, don't let certain directors touch this. Don't let the Wayans brothers touch this movie, because although they do try to lift up black individuals at times, they often play into stereotypes, and they make fun of other races, which is not what you want to see in a movie. Like, what I think Danez Smith is getting at is, like, you don't want to tear down other races while also hyping your own, while showing black pride. Black pride isn't necessarily saying whites are bad or Asians or something like that, or like Latinos aren't that great. Black pride is lifting everyone up, including your own race, which I think is a pretty great message in this poem. And then also noting how he doesn't want the black kid to die in this poem, or he doesn't want it to be about black pain, or he doesn't want people to say the N-word, which I said in the poem, but I'm not going to say again, only once for academic purposes here. But he doesn't want anyone to say it who wouldn't say it to his face, and you don't just capitalize on, like, black tropes. Like, you have to make a movie that's starring black people. Like, it's not a black film. It's more along the lines of a movie that happens to have black people and that celebrates black culture in a way. So there's a key difference here that maybe I don't quite understand. Like, how can you celebrate black culture without it being a black film? Maybe like getting at the great things about black culture without trying to make it about black people themselves. It becomes a very, like, hard line there, because the further you go into making it about black culture, the more you touch upon, like, black ideas. But I think Danez Smith believes that you can't necessarily, or like you can like toe that line there, which you might be able to do. It's just I think it's kind of rather difficult, but that's only because so many movies just give in to making it about black pain, or like having that history of pain, or black extinction, or fears of something like that. So even though I can't see it, I do think it might be possible. And ultimately, what Danez Smith wants out of this, what he wants out of this movie that he made up, is a celebration of Black culture, of celebrating, Black grandmothers as they hide guns, and Viola Davis giving saving the city, and Cicely Tyson giving a great grand noble speech. And in the end, there's that black boy on the bus with their toy dinosaur. Their eyes and the future is ahead of them. And that's what this movie represents, the future ahead of for Black people in American culture. Because at this point, you've made the movie about wonder and amazement about the dinosaurs and a community trying to thrive, and instead of making it about the underlying issue of race in America, because that's all you're going to make a movie's about. That's all that you can maybe expect out of people of color, which is, I think, what Danez Smith might be getting at here. Anyway, so those are my thoughts on Dinosaurs in the Hood by Danez Smith, a pretty quality poem that I'm going to put a link to in the comments. I also encourage you to find some of Danez Smith's other poems. They have a really good way of blending sometimes funny things with also sometimes, morose things. And I think they come off as a really great poet at times, even if their slam poet leanings are kind of obvious. Their poems are still standoutish. And this might be one of the better poems that I've read this year, just because this was a lot of fun and very, very interesting to read. It provided me with a lot to think about. If you read this before, you simply want to comment on something I said here, do so below. Let's have a discussion about Dinosaurs in the Hood. Otherwise, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that more people can find out about this poem and this author if they don't already know, as well as Poetry Thursday, so we can get more people doing that. And until then, I wish you the best of luck in your weird and triceratops travels. Farewell.